especially the one on Sunday against the Brazilian national team, which I don't anticipate being all that competitive, but I still anticipate Kalen's going to be on the court for a lot of that game.
Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Owen Siebring. Owen will join us again. Owen, of course, sports anchor at Fox 28, CBS 2. Let's talk Hawkeye football and the spring practice last week and all the comments from Kirk Ferentz and some of the players. Owen, stay in your chair here, but Mark Gronowski actually threw the ball this last week at practice. He didn't throw it in the scrimmage or the practice, but he stood on the sideline and threw the ball. So I think that was a positive sign after his surgery this spring. Quarterback throwing the ball, that made big news, Owen.
Yeah, I think that Hawkeye fans really should be encouraged by that. And, but you don't like to play the comparison game too much, but at least just in recent history, if you look back and make the parallel to Cade McNamara when he came in here and he was coming off an injury as well. Boy, he really wasn't doing much in spring practice. He still really wasn't doing much in fall practice either when they get to Kids Day in August. And so the fact that Mark's already on the sideline, thrown a football, I think that at least bodes well that Hawkeye fans shouldn't be too worried about the fact that he had offseason surgery. Seems like every time we talk to either him or a coach, they talk about how ahead of schedule his recovery has been. Initially, they said he really wouldn't be hardly throwing the football at all until June. The fact that he's doing it in late April should say, like, hey, this guy's really ahead of schedule and he should be ready to throw that football come September.
What I love about Caden Weegen's game is go ahead and kick away from him in special teams, punting and kicking game. But if Tim Lester, offensive coordinator in year 2 now, it just seems like everybody's ratcheted their game up, and that receiver room is getting big plaudits from everybody around him.
Yeah, see, and that's funny that you and I think everybody wanted to see him more involved at the receiver spot. Our producer for the Eye on the Hawks podcast, Mike Howell, he's been saying that for the last year. I mean, all of last season, he wanted to see Caden Weegen more involved as a wide receiver. And it seems like this coming year, we're going to get a whole lot more of that because when we spoke with Caden Weegen a couple weeks ago ahead of the spring practice, he talked about that was the big reason why he came back to Iowa this coming year was he wanted to get more reps at wide receiver to hopefully show NFL teams for the future. And it sounds like he said that he's doing that. Tim Lester said that he's doing that. The Weegen's getting a lot more involved, the receiver. So I would anticipate him to be I don't know if I'd be ready to say that he's going to be a starting wide receiver this coming year, but I really do anticipate him getting a lot more involved in the receiver game and probably get maybe, at least 2 to 3 targets each game, if not 2 to 3 catches a game.
So a lot of good news there on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Jennings Dunker, I really would project a great season for him if he's able to stay healthy. He wasn't even able to play in the spring practice because he's dealing with a minor injury right now, but Kirk said that he doesn't anticipate that being any sort of a big deal going forward. So I'd anticipate him to be ready for day one as long as he doesn't have any setbacks. But Jennings really could be a special type of offensive lineman who could be, I don't want to make any big speculations, but could be a first-round draft pick if he lives up to his expectations. He's just got all the size that you would want out of an NFL offensive lineman. So I think that he has that potential. Obviously, some losses on the offensive line, some spots where we don't really know what we're getting quite yet. But they did pick up the transfer from Ferris State in Bryce Young. Boy, a lot of guys really seem to like him a lot. So he could anchor that other tackle spot. I don't know if they're keeping Jennings at the right tackle. If they move him over to left tackle, we kind of asked the coordinators about that. And seems like nobody's quite sure yet. But either way, if those guys are your offensive tackles, 2 guys who are pushing over 300 pounds, you certainly do like where you're at. In terms of the running back room, a lot of question marks kind of right now, but who's going to be taking the main reps, if it's Kamari Moulton, if it's Jazz Patterson. Either way, I feel like both guys look good right now. And it's just funny to think back where we were a year ago. Nobody was really talking about Caleb Johnson. We were all kind of talking about LaShawn Williams and what he was going to do. And then all of a sudden, the guy who started the year at like number 3 on the depth chart, he's the All-American. So it's just funny how these things develop. And you never know in spring who's really going to develop and turn into an All-American by the fall.
We know Drew Stevens, unless something earth-shattering happens, we know Drew Stevens will be the kicker, special teams. We know that Reese Dakin will be a punter, special teams. So let's get to the defensive side of the ball. And what I always say to you, not jokingly, but I say it with a smile, the transfer portal giveth and it taketh away. But also graduation, lack of eligibility, whatever you want to call it. Some 3 big names on the defensive side of the ball. Of course, losing Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson and Y.A. Black. But you've got, and Sebastian Castro, that's 4 big names right there. But they've got guys to step in. Of course, Nestor transferred, hit the transfer portal. But they brought in some defensive back help from Purdue as well. But a lot of great pieces still. I know Xavier Wongpa didn't play in the spring practice as well. but get him healthy and back. There's still a lot of pretty darn nice pieces Phil Parker has to work with on defense, right, Owen?
Yeah, a lot of additions to the secondary from the transfer portal that we've seen. It just seems like every week you see one or two get more guys arrive on the team from the portal, and so it seems like they're really trying to bolster that secondary. Which it's shocking that we even have to say that the Iowa secondary struggled last year, because that just seems to never be the case. But boy, they really did struggle last year. They gave up some big plays that are uncharacteristic of that secondary. So as much as there's a lot of experience coming back, I feel like they really wanted to shore it up with some experience from the portal, from guys like transfer from Purdue, like Judkins, who's going to come in. The interesting spot that I keep kind of wondering about is linebacker for Iowa, which they have not really made any offseason additions. And so either one of two things is going to happen. Either the linebacker core really is going to be weak, and that's going to be a soft point for the Hawkeyes, or they really are confident in this young group of linebackers who are coming in. Landon Van Kickerix is a guy who came out to media availability when we talked to the linebackers, who hasn't seen a whole lot of time on the field, but if they're sending him out there for media day, hey, maybe this is a guy who we're going to see a lot of. I know they've talked a lot about some of these young guys who are going to be just sophomores coming up, and Derek Weiskopf and Cam Buffington, Preston Reese, guys who played high school football in Eastern Iowa, who we knew the names a little bit coming in, haven't seen a lot of them on the field, but maybe these are guys who the coaching staff sees them and thinks that they really are ready, even as, redshirt freshmen or sophomores, to take that next step and be starting linebackers or get a lot of reps there at linebacker.
Well, they've got some leadership there in Rex Roth and Sherrar,
Yep.
but also when you talk about linemen, make Mitch Vick happy here. We got to talk about Cedar Rapids Xavier, of course.
Yeah.
Ethan Herkett coming back, so that'll make Mitch very happy. But now that Quinn Schulte's not there anymore, but yeah, you're right. There's still some good pieces. There's some good young talent with a little bit of experience and some leadership. So you're right. I think that is going to be a question mark, and I'm glad you brought that up. But let's put a pin in it here for this conversation, and then we'll talk more NFL draft and some Hawkeye baseball, softball, tennis. A lot of big things happening on a national level for our Hawkeye teams in the spring sports. So he's Owen Siebring. I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Seils and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Owen Siebring from Fox 28 and CBS 2 sports anchor there. Let's talk a little NFL draft. Since we just talked Hawkeye football in the previous segment, spring ball, let's talk a little NFL draft. Of course, some of our guys that we would have loved to have seen Hawkeyes get drafted didn't, but they got nice free agency deals. But the 3 draft picks we can talk about, or 5 draft picks, excuse me, but primarily I want to talk about Caleb Johnson going to the Steelers. And right after that, Wyatt Black going to the Steelers, and then some offensive linemen going, Colby and Richmond going to NFL teams. So good draft for the Hawks, but also you've got some nice free agency signings. So once again, almost 40 players as far as active rosters go. Of course, that'll change, Owen, as the season progresses, some OTAs and getting into summer camp and in the season. But Hawks at or near the top 10 former Hawkeyes are, Owen, in the NFL, and that always makes us proud.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really curious about the fit for Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh. That's a team that has some offseason question marks they're trying to fill. I know they're still kind of trying to figure out the quarterback situation there, whether or not they're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers. Like, still nobody knows really who's going to be totally taking all the snaps there in Pittsburgh, but it's going to be an interesting backfield there with Caleb Johnson. See how many reps he gets coming in. First year for him. Love having him as future teammates with Y.A. Black, with Logan Lee. They're still in Pittsburgh, so interesting situation there. One of the most interesting fits I like out of the draft is Luke Lachey, nearly Mr. Irrelevant. If he'd gone 2 picks later, would have been the last pick in the draft, but him at Houston. I like that. Boy, Houston seems to really love the Iowa guys. They picked up 2 Iowa State receivers, and Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins. Love those 2 fits there to go along with Xavier Hutchinson, another former Iowa State receiver who's there. Luke Lachey filling another spot which was previously occupied by another former Hawkeye, and C.J. Fedorowicz, who was a Houston Texan back in the day. And so Luke Lachey, still a little bit of a wild card, obviously, in the 2023 season. He was injured most of the year, didn't play a whole lot. Last year, didn't score a touchdown for the Hawkeyes. Still hasn't scored a Hawkeye touchdown since the 2022 season. And so we'll see how he fits there in Houston. Obviously, the tight end reputation precedes itself with Iowa, with George Kittle now being the highest paid tight end in NFL history. And so now we're going to see Luke Lachey, see if he can kind of continue that reputation now in Houston.
So, Owen, let's get into talking a little bit more about Hellerball and Hawkeye baseball. My goodness, leading the Big Ten, he's got the three studs at the top of his pitching staff for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those weekend Big Ten series, they're 20-4 right now as we speak, and they've got three big series coming up to close the season out. Of course, the one series is the Des Moines series at Principal Park. It's playing at the iCub Stadium against Oregon State, who is not in the Big Ten, but they play at UW this weekend for 3 and then come home and play Oregon for 3. And Oregon is nipping at their heels in third place right behind UCLA and Iowa.
Yeah, if you're the Hawkeyes, you have to love the fact that you've got 3 aces there, because that's what's going to matter come the postseason. They've got 3 guys who can win a lot of these Big Ten games. I think every Hawkeye fan still really wonders, why can they not win these midweek games against schools like Bradley and Illinois State? And I think a big reason why is they're trying to trot out some of those middle relief guys, and so they're wanting to save their aces for the weekend for the Big Ten games that matter, which is fair. I mean, right now the Big Ten race is the biggest thing that matters. But nevertheless, they keep dropping in the RPI every time they drop one of these midweek games. But with that being said, they are still in first place in the Big Ten. And as long as they keep winning series, then they're going to remain in first place in the Big Ten. It's kind of a strange format right now where they're in first place, but there's 3 teams in the Big Ten behind them that are ranked in the nation's top 25, and Iowa's got an RPI of 71. So they still do have a lot that they can prove over these last 3 major weekend series that they've got, especially that Oregon State. Boy, even if they win one game against Oregon State, I think that's going to do wonders for their RPI. The Oregon series to close out the year in Iowa City, that's going to be a huge one. I think that's going to be a big one that a lot of Hawkeye fans are going to come out to. And so as long as they can lock up a even top 2 spot in the Big Ten regular season standings, I think that they would be a lock for the NCAA tournament. But you still want to take care of business with these last few series. As long as they even win these series overall, just take 2 games out of 3, they're, I think, a lock for the NCAA tournament. Really fun team overall. I mean, just after last year, a little bit of a disappointment last season with how things turned out. But this year, they came out, maybe not a lot of people expecting much out of them in the preseason Big Ten polls, but they've really proven a lot, again, with the 3 ace pitchers like you've mentioned, and Savary, Buter, and Obermueller. That is a formidable, maybe the most formidable top 3 rotation in the Big Ten.
You know, the intriguing thing when I've had Rick Heller on this show before in my past radio shows as well, and we'll have Rick on this spring and summer again. What I love in talking to him is, and to your point, Owen, he says, we want to take it out of the NCAA's hands. Let's you and I talk a little Hawkeye softball. My goodness, again, as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, April 30th, the Hawkeye women beat Iowa State. Owen, as you reported last night, first time in 8 years the Hawkeye women win a game, and from a very, not because of injuries, she's not been used very much in her first 2 years at Iowa. And a grand slam, all she does is come up and hit a grand slam and a pinch hit roll. Talk about that for us, if you would, please.
Yeah, incredible game. I mean, there should be a little bit of an asterisk next to the 8 years because they didn't play each other in 2020 or 2021. They didn't play each other last year because of weather. And so it's still fun to say 8 years because it sounds more
Absolutely
dramatic. But overall, there's only been actually 4 or 5 games that have actually been played in those last 8 years. But the more impressive, Mark, to me, was first time they've shut Iowa State out since 2005. And I think if I look back at the records right, it's their largest shutout win over Iowa State in program series history. So still an impressive win, winning 5-0 over the Cyclones. That grand slam by Jaylee Ojo was just huge. I mean, she just an incredible story. I didn't even know the story until I was talking to her after the game. But yeah, she's normally a pitcher, has had some pitching appearances this year, but only her 7th career collegiate at bat. She had, I think, 4 last year and 2 this year, maybe before that at bat. But their head coach, interim head coach, I should say, Carl Golan, he put her in and said, hey, you're going to pitch hit in this situation where we've got the bases loaded and 2 outs and can really secure this game with a big hit. And she came in and delivered and just had a 1,000,000-watt smile on after the game. I mean, she was just glowing, being able to come in clutch for the Hawkeyes in that situation. Before that, only had 1 career RBI as a Hawkeye and comes up and has 4 in 1 swing of the bat. So just an incredible story for her. A lot of fun to watch her and a lot of fun to watch his team. I mean, again, we talked about Iowa baseball as a team with low expectations coming in. Couldn't have hardly been lower expectations for Iowa softball, a team that was hosting the Big Ten tournament last year and didn't even make the Big Ten tournament. Only 2 teams don't make it. Iowa was one of them. So they were at the bottom of the conference this year. I mean, their head coach, Renee Gillespie, had to step away from the team in December for health reasons. Another associate head coach comes in, and he leaves the team in February for other reasons that we don't have to get into right now. But you can find a good Daily Iowan article about the reasons that he stepped away. So I'll just plug that. But now they've got their third coach of the year coming in, Carl Golan. And I mean, he's just led this team to be, I think they're right now in 6th place in the Big Ten standings. Nobody would have expected them to be there. And they're doing it in ways that I can't quite figure out, because I looked through the Big Ten statistical leaders and most major categories. I was not even in the top 20 in anything. Jalen Adams is having a good year. She's 4th in ERA right now, but no eye-popping numbers for the team. They just every single weekend, week in and week out, find ways to win games. And again, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Congratulations to the Hawkeye women's tennis team. I think you reported, Owen, for the first time in over 15 years, they've reached the national tournament. Congratulations to them.
Yeah. We, even Mitch Fick mentioned this to me. Mitch has been around the station a lot longer than I have, and we ran highlights of them earlier this year when it was the Cy-Hawk matchup between Iowa and Iowa State tennis teams. Iowa State's a good team too, and he even mentioned that night. He's like, "Boy, I don't remember the last time that we've covered Iowa women's tennis, because they're usually not worth covering, frankly. They're not worth much." And so this year, the fact that they were able to win some Big Ten duels, beat, I think, 4 teams ranked in the nation's top 75, like their record might not look all that impressive. I think they're 13-10 overall in dual meets this year, but they've been able to beat enough teams that they get selected to go down to Georgia, going to face Georgia Tech in the first round. Just an enormous step in the right direction for them. And you got to just give kudos to Beth Getz and everything happening in the athletic department right now.
I just think the great things happening for Caitlin and the Fever are highlighted by Sunday's exhibition game. It's not even a full preseason game, Owen, or anything. It's an exhibition against the Brazilian national team.
Yeah, there's a major storyline potentially in all 3 of the Fever's preseason games, because on Saturday you have Caitlin hosting Lucy Olson, a former Hawkeye, so going to see how they match up. On Sunday, there is a possibility, we don't know this for sure, but Aaliyah Guyton is a member of the Brazilian women's national team. She transferred out of Iowa. She's going to play over at Illinois now. And so there could be a chorus of boo birds coming out if she ends up playing in that game. But we don't know for sure yet if that's going to happen. We'll see. But we do know Aaliyah Guyton is going to come to Carver next year, because she's playing at Illinois, who's going to have a game in Iowa City next season. So that one might be a one with that fans are going to get excited for. But their third preseason game is against the Atlanta Dream. Who plays for the Atlanta Dream is Iowa City native and former Iowa State superstar Ashley Jones, whose professional career we've covered. She won a ring with the Las Vegas Aces. She won a championship with the league she played in New Zealand last year, the home of Carl Golan. We should connect the dots there. But Ashley Jones, another big name that's coming out of Iowa that's going to be playing for the Dream. So big reasons to watch all of all of the Fever's preseason games, especially the one on Sunday against the Brazilian national team, which I don't anticipate being all that competitive, but I still anticipate Caitlin's going to be on the court for a lot of that game.
Owen, it is always great to see you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. Always a pleasure to be here.
Well, and likewise, I can easily say that back to you likewise. So for Owen Siebring, I'm Dave O'Hara and Hawkeye. We'll be back to close out the show and our sports betting segment with James Seils at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com. Back with more in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, your good buddy James Seils at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com. Of course, he's part of the production team. My production partners with Greg Kajewski at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com. James, my friend, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking time. You guys are busier than all get out, so let's get to it right away. Kentucky Derby upcoming. WNBA season upcoming, in the middle of MLB regular season. But James, you're a Tippy Business School grad, University of Iowa alum. Greg's an Iowa native like I am. Of course, Greg's a UNI Panther. But I think what I love about this is you'll pan back just a little bit with your Minnesota Wild shirt. You're covering the Wild. And let's talk about it. The Wild and NHL playoffs lost a heartbreaker last night as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, April 30th. Lost a heartbreaker in Vegas last night, but only down 3-2 coming back home to Minnesota. And, of course, Minnesota Timberwolves rocking and rolling. Big time 3-1 lead over the Lakers. I got to tell you, the NBA playoffs, for the first time in a number of years for me, James, the NBA playoffs are getting close to the NHL. NHL was, for my money, some of the best playoffs ever. NBA kind of getting back to it now. Would you agree with that, James?
Yeah, I would. I think, NHL and hockey always has the great thing of 8 seeds can beat 1 seeds, right? It's just the game itself is just so much smaller margins, and so you can get those upsets. In the NBA, it's rare. I think with the parity in the NBA now, we're seeing a lot more of those lower seeds succeed against the top seeds, just like, the T-Wolves could, beat the Lakers in 5 if they win tonight. And so, yeah, I definitely see that. And we see it in the numbers too. I mean, having a lot of users up here in Minnesota, we've seen a ton of volume on the Wild and the Wolves. And typically, NHL playoff hockey is huge for us, and we're seeing just as much growth and activity on the NBA playoff games this year as well. So, yeah, both leagues are really exciting, and the teams being where they are really exciting for us.
There's no juice, no house, no vig. So you can take a portion of your percentage instead of paying that 10, 11%. You can say, hey, guys, I want to take my winnings and put some of that percentage towards charity or keep it all. But just an unusually good and very prosperous thing for the sports bettor, but for all of us. It's really great stuff, James.
Yeah, and like we talked a little bit off air, I think a common misconception on the social betting marketplace is just the amount of money you can put down. I mean, if you're a really good bettor, you go to a book, they're probably going to cap you because you're causing them to lose money. We don't bet against you, so you have no cap. You could come on and put down a $10,000 order if you want. It all depends on the liquidity of the market. If it gets all of it fulfilled, or 6,000 or 7,000 gets fulfilled, and then you can come in and place as little as $1. So it's really there not just for, us two buddies to bet against each other, while that's a great aspect of it. But if you are looking to get down a lot more, we're also that option for you as well. And the more you put down, the more you actually save, since you're not paying that 10% VIG like David mentioned before. The bigger bet you put down, the more you're saving, because 10% of 100 is more than 10% of $1, obviously.
So let's you and I talk a little Sport of Kings, the Kentucky Derby, the Run for the Roses. Even horse fans who aren't horse racing fans get into it for these next 3 races, the next 5 weeks or something special, of course, with the Belmont Stakes, Preakness, following the Kentucky Derby. Just great stuff. So talk a little bit. You got a great promotion going on with a major liquor supplier up there in Minnesota. So let's talk about it a little bit, if you would, for us, please, James.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the cool things about our platform is, we do have the B2C product where you come in, download the app and bet, but we also do partner with a lot of cool companies, charities, as you've mentioned in the past, but we also partner with companies like liquor stores and other things. And so what we're doing with the liquor store is called Ace Spirits. We're actually giving away a bottle of Blanton's, and all you have to do is do a fun little pick 'em game on some fun questions around the Derby, like which horse is going to win, what color will the horse be, how old will the jockey be, all those fun little pick 'ems. And if you get the most right, you get a bottle of Blanton's. And so it's a fun way to, get our audience engaged in the Derby beyond just betting, winner, top 2, top 3, but also it engages the customer base of our partner and gets them excited about the Derby. And, Kentucky Derby, cigars and whiskey is a pretty common connection there. And then you throw sports betting on top of that, and you've got a Venn diagram that's very full in the middle. So it was kind of a perfect opportunity for us and for Ace Spirits. And so, yeah, if you're interested, if you get into the app, you can just go into the engagements competitions tab, and you'll find that giveaway game in there, and you can go ahead and play.
Next day, of course, Sunday, May the 4th be with you for you Star Wars fans, May 4th. 3 o'clock tip on ESPN, James, against the Brazilian national team. So the game has been moved up from 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Of course, the second tickets went on sale at Carver Hawkeye, as you know, as a Hawkeye alum. Those tickets were gone. So anything Caitlin Clark, of course, is going to happen like that in Iowa. But James, as always, Caitlin brings the crowd. ESPN National TV, a sellout. James, it's not even a preseason game per se. It's an exhibition against the Brazilian national team. Caitlin's still packing the house, James.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of remarkable about, really that rising tide has lifted all boats with her, because obviously all the WNBA games for us has gotten more and more volume last year and than they had the year before. And now we're seeing so much interest, like you said, in games that really don't even matter, these exhibition games. But, people just want to get in there and see Caitlin do her thing, see what the new Fever team looks like. I mean, if you look at the roster from last year, it's a complete overhaul. So it'll be really interesting to see how they gel and work together, and the differences in styles that they might have this year. But yeah, so we got a ton of requests on WNBA. We've got futures markets. I think the Fever currently are, the second highest odds to win the championship. So yeah, it's a lot of excitement. It's fun to see that league grow and grow, and we benefit from it because the more it grows, the more it's talked about, the more people bet on it. And so gotta love that.
James, great to see you as always. Thanks so much for taking a little extra time today Always appreciate and enjoy our conversation, folks. There he is, James Seils, co-creator and co-founder of BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com with my good buddy, Greg Kajewski. James, great to see you again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave. Always great to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And likewise. So for, again, James Seils, Greg Kajewski at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, Owen Siebring at Fox 28 and CBS 2, and to you, the viewers at Hawkeye. I'm Dave O'Hara. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you.